Hey, thanks for letting me share my giving story. Now, I should probably tell you that mine's not like really extraordinary or awesome, but as I've grown in my faith, I've really seen God move more in my life in relation, not so much about what I can get, but really what I can release. And what God has showed me is by emptying my hands of the things in my life, it's really allowed me to have an increased capacity to receive more from God. And you think about a closed fist, you can't receive anything if you're holding on to what you already have. And so what I found is that my giving story is marked by what I've experienced as the 3 C's of giving. Now, I know this is going to sound really preachy, but the first C is convenience. So I looked up the meaning of the word convenience in the dictionary, and one application that I found is what is called freedom from discomfort. So, in other words, I didn't have to deal with the discomfort of losing what I thought was mine, because when I first came to faith in Jesus, I think I, like a lot of other people, had this great excitement at the beginning of my faith, but I didn't have a lot of understanding or knowledge or even any sort of uh, grasp on what giving meant. And so I didn't really know yet at that point that giving was something that I actually was called to do. So what did I do? I go to church, and if I had some money in my wallet, I'd give a few bucks in the offering, or maybe I would on a holiday, whether it was Christmas or Easter, I'd write a little bit larger check, maybe throw an extra $5 in, feel pretty good about myself when the service was over. And so really my generosity was kind of on my terms when it was easy for me. And then I didn't really have a whole lot of money, so I really felt like I needed to hold on to what I thought was mine. And what God was really showing me is that I needed to make more room for Him in my life. And that's when I was introduced to tithing and also introduced to the second C. Now, the second C is compliance. This might require a little bit of an explanation, but stay with me here. I think I have an analogy that might work. So you see, when I'm driving and I approach a stop sign, I stop, right? It sounds pretty simple, but you have to think sometimes about why you stop. I mean, have you done that? I mean, we stop because we see a stop sign there, but I bet that if we're honest, there are probably times when we approach a stop sign that we have to sometimes think to ourselves, if I just kind of look to the left and the right a little bit, I can kind of roll through this intersection. I know nobody's coming, and I could probably make it through, not have any issues, and I'm good, right? But that would be against the law. And I think that's kind of where my mindset was when it came to giving. You see, when I go to a stop sign, I don't always think about the intended consequences that happen when I go and make a stop. I don't think about sometimes the other drivers or pedestrians or people on bikes. I just stop because it's what I do when I reach a stop sign. And the same is kind of true with my pattern of giving as I started to learn about tithing. What I did was I gave 10% because it was what I was commanded to do. It wasn't really out of some sort of generous spirit that I had, or because I had this encounter with Christ to feel compelled to give more, or I had a desire to return to God what was already His. I kind of gave because it was the basic boilerplate minimum expectation. So in fact, I gave, but my heart really wasn't in it. The shift in my thinking really started to change, I would say about 3 years ago during the Daniel fast, when I really started to feel like it was okay to begin to let go of control of different things in my life and kind of put more trust into God's hands and really take up that third C. Now, the third C is commitment. And it started with prayer and fasting. Now, I mentioned the Daniel fast because I heard an awesome quote that somebody kind of threw out as an aside in one of the Kaleo classes that I was in years ago, when somebody said, what if we gave the first 10% of our day like we give the first 10% of our paycheck? And it really started to get me thinking about how I can start releasing control in other areas of my life and really stewarding my life well. And so what I found was that my focus was starting to become less of an act of duty and more on an act of devotion. And when I did that, I really started to experience miracles happen in my life. God was making ways to provide for my family when there were seemingly no ways. See, I'm not wealthy by any stretch, but committing to my life and my family to the work of Jesus Christ has really given us prosperity that reaches far beyond our bank account. Thank you for letting me share my giving story.